Yep. What we
Ready?
have to learn.
Sir. Okay, I've got 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call our Select Board meeting of Tuesday, June 11th to order. And first item is approval of the agenda.
Moved?
I've got a motion.
Okay.
You
Second
second
then? Didn't hear.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the agenda? Oh, first, any changes? Any recommended changes? Hearing none. Okay, now, all in favor of approving the agenda as drafted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, next is approval of minutes of our May 28th Select Board meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any recommended changes to that?
Nope.
No? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as drafted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? I think we have an abstention, yes. Okay. Yeah. Somebody was off playing.
Yes, he was.
I don't remember signing that leave slip.
You actually did, yeah.
I did?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, you were busy that day,
Yeah.
so you probably forgot a lot of things like that.
Citizen comments. Is there anybody for something that's not on the agenda here?
That's us.
That's us.
Yeah. Middlebury Tree Committee. You're in the hot seat.
Yeah, jeez. Just grab one of the roller chairs.
Yeah, just grab that one.
There's
Oh,
one
here,
right
here's
there.
another one. Oh, be careful.
So, we're
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
members of the Middlebury Tree Committee. As you know, Judy Weiger Groves from East Middlebury.
Leslie Kameny from Middlebury.
And Chris Cioli from Middlebury.
And
And we're here on behalf of the Tree Committee and the Arbor Day Foundation to present some plaques and a flag and
signs.
and some signs that we received because we became a Tree City USA this year.
Very nice.
Great.
That's very nice.
Where would we,
Hopefully at the entrance to the town.
right, well,
There are
is there
two
room on the,
signs.
there is.
So one could imagine,
North and
The
one
north and
south.
south entrances,
Mhm.
hopefully.
And,
You say you have 2 signs?
yes.
yes, we have.
And how
two
many
signs.
flags? 2?
Yes.
Okay. So you're gonna do both south and north end of the town?
Well, we thought you might have a feeling about it. We certainly can come back to you with suggested locations.
For the tree sign?
Yeah, at least, just my thought, at least one of them should be on the town green.
Well, I think sometimes they're put near these signs that say entering Middlebury.
Yeah.
So that it's easily identified.
I'm talking about the flags.
Oh, yeah, that would be wonderful.
So, like, to fly one on the town offices or somewhere.
We should get a turn on the banner that
On the
hangs
banner,
over
yeah,
Main Street, you know.
Yep, if you can, and I thought it was a banner, but it only has these,
Gromes.
what do they call them?
Promise.
Grommets. On one side, but if somebody could figure out how to put them on the other side, then that would be great. At least
One over there too.
for a while.
Actually, it's just the flagpole, so it has to hold, it's just the side grommets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On there. And then, and I don't, but this is the other piece. To post, maybe in the, right here.
in the town office.
So,
I think what we'll do is we'll just accept all this great swag and let's figure out where it's most appropriate. And I know that we have a bunch of signs when we come in. I'll have to look and see how that fits scale-wise with our signs and stuff. So I think maybe we ask our town manager to give us a recommendation once she's looked at the sizes and how they fit in context of the other signs that are in the area and stuff. But that's cool, thanks.
but with your help, we're now the 8th of all towns, all the towns in Vermont. We're the 8th one. So,
To be recognized as a tree saver.
yeah, that have been recognized. So, here you go.
Thank you.
Great work.
Yep. So the second sign is right here.
Okay.
Well, Kathleen, do you want us to put these anywhere?
Yeah, if you just put them over there, I'll get them down to Public Works.
And we have a second thing.
Okay.
If you want, hold that one.
Oh, good. Hopefully it's good news.
No,
No?
it's not these.
It's here.
So as you heard from Chris to Kathleen to you all, EAB has been detected in Bristol. The state forester, or sorry, the county forester, and the technical assistance coordinator for Vermont Urban and Community Forests at the Vermont Department of Forest Parks and Recreation checked out the tree in Bristol. They are fairly certain it's here in Middlebury already. So that kind of, I mean, we have a management plan in place. We have a budget in place. And now it's for you all and us to decide, what we do next. I mean, you're the people that decide if we can start taking trees down. We can provide advice and guidance and, resources. And now the decision needs to be made as to how we do that.
We need to start informing
Right.
Middlebury residents, Middlebury businesses, that it is here.
Right.
It's in Addison County, it's most likely in Middlebury. It's gonna kill every ash tree. I
Right.
mean, you might not see it for 5 years, it might be 15 years before you notice all of them dying, but they're all going to die. And that's gonna be a big effect on the town. And,
Yeah. I think Elise Shadler recommended that if there are trees that need to be saved, this would be the season to treat
Right.
them, that you need to start now.
Right.
yeah.
So,
What do you do to treat them?
So there's an injection system, and there's a soil systemic system. The soil systemic system is not nearly as effective. It is effective, but it's not as safe. The injection
Chris,
system,
could you talk into the microphone?
It's delivered directly to the tree. It's injected into the cambium layer of the tree. There is a organic version, which is not as effective, but it's not ineffective. It works. Right now, you have to treat that every other year. But
Each tree.
each tree, yes,
Correct.
yes.
So do you have any idea how?
What it's gonna run?
Tree and where it
Right,
is?
right now, it's in the $10 a diameter inch at breast height, which is at 4.5 feet high. So you have a 18-inch diameter tree, it's gonna be $180. That's a
I'm
rough.
asking about the inventory of, do you know where all these trees are? How many trees?
We have an inventory of the immediate Middlebury area. We don't have the outlying areas, and we only have town right-of-way areas,
Okay.
correct?
And
I
the-
think in the plan, though, you had identified the trees per year
Right.
one might be able to save, right?
Or cut. So that's in the management plan that you all have. One of our goals before we found this out was to begin this summer doing a rural roadside inventory, because those roads are also within, right. So, again, it's, you know, like, we're looking to you now for how, you know, we proceed.
Are there high visibility areas where there's groupings of them where it would make sense to start maybe taking a few out and putting some other species, younger trees in so that we don't go a period where there's all young trees in one area or something?
So with Bill and Dan, we've started recognizing the sicker looking, the unhealthier looking ash trees, and we started taking them out already.
Right.
Yeah.
The town has, and we're continuing to do that. I don't know if that answers
I think
your
we've
question.
completed that.
Okay.
But
So
now,
that's the ones that looked like that they were already on their way out.
Right.
But do we have groupings in some areas where they all look healthy right now, but you're saying within 15 years, they're all going to be dead, where it would make sense to
Look
start
in
putting
front
in
of
some?
the UPS store.
right,
Those are all green ashes. They're 15, 20 feet high. They were planted, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
And they're all infected, right?
No. They're all ash trees, though. Those are all green ash. So that's a grouping. That
Yeah.
there's a large number
Oh,
right
okay,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, wasn't
But-
there are a few buildings on Route 7 that have planted ash trees.
so G-Stone Motors is
Yeah.
one, they're clearly on their property, but they should be notified. Suburban Propane, where it used to be,
Mhm.
where it used to be,
On the right
those
side.
were all ash. Plouffe Automotive in East Middlebury on Schoolhouse Hill Road, those are all ash. And it's probably a matter of, we have had a hard time getting what the right-of-way is on different streets, and that's what is going to be important in determining who is responsible for those trees.
Isn't it 25 feet from the center?
Not
Well,
on,
not on all roads.
and then also there seems to be a little bit of confusion as to Route 7.
Right. Is that a state road? Is that a town
It
road?
depends on which part.
Depends on where you are.
Yeah, right.
So this is, I mean, UPS, I think, is within the town limits?
No, it's not.
It is not?
That's state highway.
Okay,
From right at the top of the hill there, you'll see a sign that says state highway begins
Okay.
here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Basically,
Yeah.
That's
wherever
right.
where that new paving
Yep.
ends, that's basically the line between.
Where the
Yes.
municipality becomes responsible.
Yes.
So the committee has tried to identify planting spots in those
Right.
areas within the right-of-way that have more than one ash tree.
Okay.
To plant young trees, so when they do become infected, which is inevitable, there'll be other trees in its place.
I guess maybe we all need to pull out that plan again and just kind of refresh our memory and have a discussion about that.
There's also a map. Didn't you post a map? And couldn't we display that again in a public place so that people can see where the ash trees are?
so we're considering doing a public meeting
Mm-hmm.
within the next month. and having either Chris Olson, who's the county forester, or Elise Shadler, who's the representative from Vermont Parks and Recreation, assist with that. And, you know, we've been presenting information to the public for a couple of years now. But now it's here, so.
So one thing that would be helpful, because I don't remember from the presentation, were there trees identified that you thought would be worth trying to save with the
That's
injection?
right, I remember. Weren't
We
there? Like,
have
we allocated
been working on
5,000?
coming up with a list.
Okay.
Yes.
So
it's-
I think it would be great if sometime, when it's reasonable, to come before the infrastructure committee with a plan on the trees you think are worth saving, because I certainly don't know, and would have to defer to you guys making a recommendation to us, and, you know, what that cost looks like, and, you know, provide us with your opinion on how to move, you know, what should we be doing this year? You know, are there any worth injecting and saving? And just give us your recommendation. It's in our hands, but we would value your, I would value your input rather than we.
I think
So,
it was all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of
For us.
just as a parting comment, one of the problems is that if you treat a tree, anything that feeds off of it dies. So
Okay.
it's not just PAB, it's anything else that utilizes that tree. And I think that's what has caused us to,
Pause.
okay,
Got it.
so that's good to know, and,
So you're injecting this to kill the tree?
No.
To save the tree?
To kill
Kill the
anything
disease.
that feeds on.
The tree.
Okay.
So it could kill other
But it
pollinators.
could
Yeah.
kill
Yes.
other.
right.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
that's
makes
the
the tree
problem.
Right.
toxic.
Yeah.
And
to-
that's
to
why,
pests.
Yeah.
So you've been hesitant to
Yeah,
recommend it.
Exactly.
it's a, you know,
So it sounds like you don't want us to do that,
Well,
probably.
It's an extreme measure, I take
Yeah.
it, right? Yeah.
Significant tree. It's expensive and it has that
Mhm.
negative effect, although it would be good to save a few if they're significant.
Mhm.
there are a couple large ash in the town green that
Yeah.
one's healthy, one's very healthy, one's not so healthy.
So do we know what's the life cycle of this insect? I mean, after the tree dies, does the insect move away, or do they continue to live in the remains of the tree? So
No,
what we're
they,
looking at
they
is-
move on to
They go on
another.
to another
uh,
tree.
So once down the road here someplace, it destroys
Will we
the
be able
trees
to
it
plant
can, it
green
goes-
ash, or will we be able to plant ash again?
Well,
That's-
or how much longer do we continue to treat a tree after the
It's,
last
it's,
of the
that's an
living?
unknown entity.
That's what I was
It-
suspecting, I just not.
okay.
it sounds like it could be 10 to 15 years.
I think it could also
Does
be
sound like that
forever.
From what you're saying,
Yeah.
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 Is there an ash tree that's resistant to the borer?
Not that anybody knows, but there
Okay.
could be. You
What did
just-
they plant on the new Middlebury College Park? Is that, it's not ash, or is it elm?
No.
Should
It's-
be,
it's-
Okay.
I don't know exactly, I know some of them, but I don't know all of them.
They had a tour of the new Middlebury Town Park this weekend related to the Shelburne Museum doing an exhibit on landscape architecture, and that might be a place to temporarily put a sign. I don't know, maybe they're interested because they're highlighting landscaping.
Well, we put in a purple trap, if any of you've seen it, on one of the ash trees in the town green, along with a bulletin, a sign explaining, with the explanation. And it's right there across from the Middlebury Inn.
right.
And so we're hoping that
Right,
people-
that's one way of
One
raising
way.
public awareness.
Exactly,
No,
yeah.
I was saying that the Sheldon may be another place to do outreach, and also to promote that we're a tree city, maybe.
That's, yeah.
I think one of the reasons, last year, Elise Shadler and the state said, do not cut down your ash trees yet, because they were hoping that there would be a tree that might be resistant amongst all the others that are going to be done. dying, so it's to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to create a mass panic of knee-jerk reaction to cut every single ash tree right now, although that may end up being necessary, but we're hoping to slow the process down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. And we'll let you know where we decide these are the most appropriate
Okay.
places to
Great.
Yeah,
put
thank
them.
you.
Do you want,
Thank you.
Kathleen, do you want them up at your office, or?
Oh, if you just put them over there.
Okay.
We have a
That'd be
lot in
easiest.
place because you've been receptive to the EAB plan that was
Right.
made, and
Right.
we, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anybody else who's here for something not on the agenda?
I apologize, my name is.
Could you come up to the microphone, please?
Yes, my name is Princess Montpellier. I apologize for arriving a few minutes late, but a lot has occupied my afternoon, unfortunately, and yesterday, because my apartment just in back of the apartments that burned yesterday. I am at 74 Court Street, apartment 2. And the flames were so intense, they burned, they melted the Venetian blinds on my back bedroom. So yesterday I was up since 3:30 in the morning when firemen and the policemen woke me up to tell me that the building was on fire and I needed to leave right away. So they told me I couldn't stay there because there was too much smoke. So at 5:30 in the morning, after having been out for 2 hours, well, it was about 5 o'clock, I went over to the Middlebury Inn to get a room tonight. And today, unfortunately, my current landlord, whom has quite a colorful reputation in the county. Unfortunately, after 10 years' absence, I returned to Vermont for peace and quiet. After several years in Chicago and my wanting to get away from crime and corruption, I've only been back here in Middlebury since April the 4th. I had no knowledge about my landlord's reputation. I was just happy to get somewhere to hang my hat, and I saw the apartment with his wife. Nonetheless, it's been quite a horrible ride. This afternoon, after he was served, I guess this morning, the summons, I was forced to file a civil action against him because of his behavior and refusal to fix deficiencies of the apartment. When I went in, it was in horrible shape. I just thought when I saw it on March 22nd, he would have fixed it when I was moving the first week of April, but it was in the same shape that I had seen it. Nonetheless, I'm not going to make a big story about these, only to tell you that after he received the summons, I guess this morning, that I had filed a civil action against him, he came to the property on or about 2 p.m. this afternoon and was there harassing me until 3:30 in the afternoon. I called the police for assistance, and I was very saddened to hear, I don't remember that dispatcher's name, but he said, you cannot be calling here every 5 to 10 minutes. There are things you have to figure out yourself. In desperation, I called Miss Ramsey to tell her about this, and she suggested that maybe I could file an ROT or restraining order against my landlord. I called the Civil Rights Division, and I said I would try to get there. To be able to get out of the property, I had to get my walker and carry it over sort of an embankment and go over 3 more properties with grass, which is very hard to push my walker on grass. And then finally find a safe way to the street and to get to the court. When the dispatcher said that, I called a few times yesterday, but it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with my making sure that the young woman whose apartment was completely charred, and all of her, and she was really in a state of shock yesterday, making sure that she was safe. I rented a room at the Middlebury Inn, primarily so she would have a roof over her head, and I would too. And it was about her safety that I was calling yesterday. And I left a message for Chief Henley yesterday when I called. And the dispatcher Murray, with whom I have had problems before, was giving me a lot of problems. I asked if I could speak with Chief Henley. And I had asked about if they knew about the whereabouts of Teresa, because the fire department had told her to stay there because they had called the American Red Cross. And then I just only heard the conversation. I was upstairs in my apartment, and I heard that the police said they needed to drive her to the police station because Officer Mason needed to speak with her. They suspect that it was her boyfriend who set the fire, and that he put gasoline on her couch, and he started the fire. All I can tell you, I've seen fires before, but I had never seen anything like that. I mean, it was really blazing. And
Princess Montpelier, I don't want to be rude, but can you get to the point of what you're looking for us to do?
Primarily is that when I called yesterday, and I was just trying to find out about the whereabouts of Teresa, because I was worried about her, I was told by Dispatcher Murray that she had left. They didn't know where she had gone. Okay? And then when I spoke with the Chief Hanley, and when I complained about Dispatcher Murray, about her attitude, and then I said, I am a former professional nurse, and I know when I see somebody in shock. Then I said, perhaps allow me to suggest you hold some seminars on sensitivity training. And he responded to me, it is none of your business. I sent him a fax today asking him what was he referring to, the welfare of Teresa or my suggestion that he hold sensitivity seminars. He did not respond. This afternoon when I returned from the court, I saw a truck and a man with like a tablet on his hand and a pen or pencil, and I didn't recognize him, so I just asked, who are you and what are you doing here? And he said to me, you're not the property owner, I do not have to speak with you. Later on, he identified himself as the chief of the fire department, Mr. Shaw. I could not recognize him. I saw so many people yesterday. I didn't know. I thought that perhaps he was there to serve me papers from my landlord. I didn't know. Now, I find this response extremely rude. I mean, I lived there. I had a reason to ask him who he was and what he was doing there. And that was the way he answered me. Number 3, actor has been denying me transportation. It's for tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be able to make it yet to Amtrak because I am in a lot of pain and due to the fire and all that's gone on today, I have not had time to get ready for my 3-day trip to New York to see my surgeons. There are 3 that participated in a surgery. And they say that I can only have 4 out-of-county trips. One trip was to SSA. I happen to have been a victim of ID theft. And now, if I change my address, I cannot do it per phone or per mail. I have to go in person to SSA. So that was one trip. I don't think they should count that in a out-of-county trip. I did not go there frolicking. The other trip was to U.S. District Court. I've lived in Vermont before for 10 years. And at that time, if you go to a court, they have to provide trips to you to defend yourself and to defend your civil rights. But they will not do it. They said, no, that counted as an out-of-county trip, and they will not give me any more. I want to know how the select board feels about this.
I'm going to just tell you that we don't have a feeling on that, and we'll take that under advisement and pass your concerns on. But ACTR does not work for us. It's a separate agency, and they don't report to us, and I don't know their rules. As far as your concerns about the police and fire chiefs, we'll certainly pass that on to them. We haven't done an investigation or anything, and I think it's best to just take it as a concern and pass that on. I need to move on in the agenda. You've had
No, I
20
object.
minutes.
I need to make a comment.
You've made many, ma'am. You've had plenty of time. It's time for us to move on.
No, I'm going to go ahead, whether you want to let me or not. Okay? You're not going to suppress what I have to say. I invited all these parties to meet me here today. Okay? I have suffered a lot, and I will finish speaking when I need to. Sir, I don't know if you're the chair or whatever. Okay?
I'm the chair, ma'am.
You are the chair.
Yes.
I will write to you
Okay, thank you.
about this. And who does exactly ACTR report to?
I will find out.
You don't know?
No.
How long have you been the chair of the select board, sir?
Long enough to know,
No,
probably.
you must know. Don't tell me long enough. Because I'm very precise, sir.
I can tell.
I'm a former professional nurse, and I was an excellent nurse because I was precise and I paid attention to detail. And that's how my patients survive. So if you have this capacity, you need to know, please. How long? Do you know, Ms. Ramsey?
The actor has a separate board.
No. Do you know how long he has been the chair of the select board?
Peter, would you please come forward? Let's get
This
moving
isn't
on.
relevant. I'll get you the contact information for the manager of
You
actor.
don't know how long Mr. Carpenter has been the chair of the select board?
Ma'am, at least 6 years. At least 6 years.
I beg your pardon?
Chair.
6
Chair
years.
3.
Okay.
In
When
his,
you gonna
he's in
tell
his
me
6
that
years.
they told
No, I think I've been chair for
They told
3.
Senator Warren sit down, and she said she would persist. This is the same situation. I tried to persist, and you have denied me the right, but I'm leaving.
Have a good day, ma'am.
No, I'm not. I will try to write to the newspapers about this meeting. And you insist in like the president.
Welcome, Peter.
Good evening. So in our agenda, the next is the Creek Road presentation follow-up. And at the end of our last meeting, we had talked about moving the next into a public meeting where it could start with a brief history of what we've done, summary of pathways, consulting report, and opportunity for some community members to present, followed by questions and answers. As we proceeded through that, I got a call today from Heather, who has had another idea, and I think it's fair to have her present that to us and have us discuss maybe which path we'd prefer to do. I think it's two valid paths, and so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Heather.
Thanks, Brian. So I met with Peter today, and we had a good conversation. And while we disagree respectfully on some things, we did find we agreed on some things. In particular, we didn't feel we were ready to make a public presentation because we don't have all of the answers yet. And a public hearing at this point would maybe just generate more questions, but we don't have a direction from the select board yet on which way to go. So we talked some about how Peter can help us move forward, get to a point where we can make a decision. And what we talked about was convening a small working group, which Peter is willing to facilitate, to look at the remaining questions that exist that we identified when he made his presentation, some other ones that we talked about today, and hopefully come to a consensus with a small working group on a recommendation that we could make to the select board, so that the select board could then, I'm imagining kind of like what we did when I chaired the Economic Health Task Force. We had a particular task and charge, and we were to discuss that charge and make a recommendation to the select board, in which time the select board could choose to accept it or not, or go in a different direction. So I'm kind of envisioning the same idea. I asked Peter today if he would be willing to make a recommendation based on the work he's done so far to the select board to help us make a decision right now, and he didn't feel comfortable with that at this point, but would be willing to work with a group to come to a recommendation. Did I
think you summarized it well.
So
I think there
yeah,
are some
go ahead.
outstanding questions that came up at the last meeting that I'm a little hesitant going into another public hearing and not being able to address those questions. Primarily the implications to the property owners of the different options, and I think those questions they're going to come up again and again until we have discussions with the property owners. And come up with what the impacts are and what the potential solutions are.
So what I would ask the select board to consider is for me to work with Peter over the next 2 weeks to identify a specific charge for this task force, the size, timeline, charge, and suggest some members for the board to consider in 2 weeks. And then, you know, if the board is agreeable, appoint those and start working on moving that question in a direction. So
So the conclusion of your working group is going to give us a recommendation, right? Then we still have to bring it to the public.
Yes, I think at that point, once we made had a recommendation, we'd have a fairly good history of what we've done, you know, why we've done it, the questions we've answered, what those answers are, and we could, I think, would be in a better position to recommend, or to say as a select board, here's how we'd like to go forward, and this is why, rather than another question and answer session that may not generate anything more or additionally useful for us.
So we'll have all those done before July 9th, you think?
Oh, no.
So we're gonna
No.
change that date?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my proposal would be for us to postpone that July 9th
That really makes sense.
meeting
yeah.
until,
Probably fall.
yeah, as,
Right.
I don't have I mean, this idea kind of came out of a conversation that Peter and I had this morning, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to think about timeline and frankly, I didn't want to go any further with the idea if the board was not on board with giving it a try.
Yeah, no, I support that. Who do you imagine being on the working group? Are you looking for a landowner, a public works person, infrastructure person, Peter?
Yeah,
do
we
you
talked a little bit about it, Heather and I
Uh-huh.
did, and I think it's fair to say this was an idea that came up today.
Okay.
And the thought was maybe we would, if this is the direction the board would like to go, that we turn it over to Heather to work with Peter and Kathleen and come back to us at our next meeting with a recommendation of maybe 5, no more than 5, so that we, again, keep it small, workable. And so 3 to 5 people that would represent different interest groups and some history and experience with Creek Road, so.
Okay.
I would be open to suggestions you have. Again, this is a fairly new idea, so I haven't given it a whole lot of thought. So,
I think the key is to really define, one, the outstanding questions that need to be answered, and 2, what the decision process is, what information the select board needs to know from the committee, from me and from the committee, in order for you to make an informed decision. The way I would tentatively see it moving forward is the committee me working with the committee, addressing those issues, the committee coming to a consensus on an approach, bring that to the select board for a vote. Once the select board has made a decision which path to proceed down, have a public informational meeting to describe the process, describe the reasons for that decision, and then from there, hopefully address any questions that come up at those public hearings or the public hearing, and then move forward with more detailed cost estimates that would support a future bond vote, and then move into final design and construction of whatever the recommended approach is. And I see that process could take place in a relatively timely manner. I don't see that the outstanding questions will take a long time to resolve. It's just a matter of making a decision to move forward and resolving them.
so I do recognize that I have some personal interest in the subject, but I do feel, regardless of that, I can set aside my personal beliefs to work with Peter and, and the committee to come up with what makes the most sense for Middlebury and for the road. So I would hope the board would see that too, but if not, you could please say so.
No,
Your personal interest is a public interest, not.
Well,
yeah.
Right.
there's personal interest in there too, so.
Well,
And
obviously,
I just want to be upfront with that,
yeah,
and
well,
so.
No, that's fine, but I know you well enough to know that you can get beyond that to what is best for the community, so I trust you to do that. I would say with the other members, wherever you want, high degree of neutrality.
Yes.
Obviously, those who don't have something in this, but can look at it objectively. So those recommendations would be there. You know, Peter, a lot of your role was to help us understand this, and it was really an educational role. Well, it sounds like there's still a little more room for education in there, so I see no reason not to endorse this. It's taken a while to get to this point, and a little extra time to get it right is not going to hurt. Would this group also then be authorized to, if necessary, by us to discuss, not negotiate, but to have conversations with the respective landowners? Is that the intent?
Well, we did talk about the need to have some conversations with them. I don't think the committee would have any power. I don't even think we're at the point of any negotiation.
I didn't mean negotiate, but you'd have to the idea is somebody has to have a conversation.
Yes, I do, and we discussed that today, and I do think that would be an important piece to know what direction the landowners might want to go or would consider go, or how they feel about it.
I think you've made a valid argument, and I don't see any reason not to pursue this.
We did it one time with the pathways process. We did have a small working group that assisted with that, and they did make a recommendation. The select board made or the infrastructure committee made a recommendation. The select board accepted that recommendation, but then it ended up not being feasible for funding wise. So we're kind of going back and redoing some of this, but with Peter's assistance. And to be fair to Peter, this will require some additional time for him, which I think we should compensate him for, and would ask him to provide us with that estimate. So.
No, this helps us get to the right answer. I'm all for it, so you've made a good argument.
Well, it helps us get to a recommendation, and hopefully that at least will move us in a direction.
Right.
And try to move forward, which is my goal.
I see no objection to this.
So when you say personal interest, it's not clear, would that create a conflict of interest based on?
I don't think it's a conflict of interest issue. It's more of just a personal, I care about what happens to the road.
Well, that's
But then
Does that
the
make
rest of the
sense?
select board has personal interests also.
Okay.
Then.
yeah.
Okay.
I think,
So when you
So-
say personal interest, it sounds like.
No,
you have some vested
I don't have I don't
Just
think I have a
wanna make sure that
conflict
we-
of interest,
Yeah.
but I did talk with Brian about it earlier, and, just to get his feeling on, and I think he felt confident that if I felt I got to the point where I couldn't make an objective decision or have an objective conversation about it, then
That's
I would
more
remove
important.
myself
Yeah.
from the process, and I would hope I would be willing to do that, so.
I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I trust you'll be fine, so.
Okay.
That's why I asked you, I mean, it's a personal interest in the public good, and that's different from having a personal interest where you would personally gain the property.
Oh, yeah, no.
So,
Yeah.
I think that's
I don't own
that's an
I don't own
important.
property.
Well, and
Yeah.
the prior interest,
Just like
it seems to me,
the
is
way you phrased it in
commendable.
the beginning, somebody can think like maybe
Yeah.
you have
Right.
something.
This means you take seriously what you're doing, which is fine.
Okay.
So am I sensing that this is direction that the board supports going?
Yeah.
So then, when's our next meeting?
June 25th.
25th? So do you think you could get back to us in time so we could approve the composition of the committee and formalize the charge on the 25th?
What do you think, Peter? Can we manage that in 2 weeks? Okay.
Okay.
I'm up for the task. Give it my
Okay, so
best
on the
shot.
25th, we'll undertake finalizing the charge and composition of the committee to do the study of those options and answers, make sure all the questions that keep getting begged are out there, and that we have some answers to those questions. And if some of that might mean sitting down with each of the property owners, how are they impacted by each particular course of action? How do we mitigate those impacts? And what are the impacts we can't mitigate? So, but everything's out there. Okay. And then would come back to us with a final recommendation of a solution, of a course of action. That's what we're looking at
Yes.
committee to do?
Yep.
Okay. And we're looking for no more than 5 people, including yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to keep it small
Yes.
Yep.
and manageable.
Yep.
Okay.
So do we need to make a motion, or is it, is it,
I think you'll make the decisions at your next meeting.
25th, yeah. We'll finalize it. So, did you have anything else for us on this?
That was it for tonight.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate continuing to work with us, Peter. This is not an easy, when we see those dollar figures, it becomes even more difficult. But it is certainly an emotional road for many people in Middlebury.
It's a tough issue for the board to grapple with.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm starting to help you head in a direction towards a decision, but it is a difficult question.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're quantifying it and laying it out side by side has gotten us onto a path where we're at least considering them using the same standard in each, so thank you.
Well, I think the other thing is we're all seeing it the same way now, too.
Yeah.
Which is what I think we weren't doing prior to come on board. I think we had, 7 of us probably had about 14 or 21 opinions, and we've
Well,
kind
you had about 21 different alternatives to look at, too.
No,
so.
we're all seeing it the same way, so I appreciate that effort. Thanks.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, next is authorize a letter of intent for FY 2020 Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program for funding to implement best management practices in compliance with Department of Environmental Conservation Municipal Roads General Permit. That's a mouthful, Kathleen.
That is a mouthful, and it's a very straightforward program. We have the money budgeted already for the match. This helps us leverage more improvements that we have to do anyway. So if there's a no-brainer out there, this is probably it. We're eligible to receive up to $17,300 in funds from the Vermont Department of Conservation for stormwater improvements on our gravel roads, and the local match is $4,325.
I'll move that we sign the letter of intent to participate in the FY '20 Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Next is a review of agenda for our June 17th Select Board Workshop Retreat. Kathleen.
So Chris gave me a big buildup in the agenda notes in a full 10 minutes. I really don't have a lot to report under this, just to reiterate that we are scheduled for next Monday night at 5:30 to continue our discussion of May 1st, where we talked about capital improvement spending and the local option tax. So that will be the headliner for your June 17th meeting. And we'll also touch a little bit on committees and some thoughts people have had about forming committees.
Good. I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Can you repeat that? I didn't get it. What committees?
We'll just be talking about committees, their charge, their tasks.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, next is approval of the check warrants.
Guess it's my turn. Okay, I've reviewed the check warrants, and I have a motion move to approve the total expenditures in the amount of $298,528.52, and that consists of $172,998.67 for accounts payable and $125,529.85 for payroll. And this is for the period May 29th, 2019 through June 11th, 2019.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
Kathleen, can I just, we're meeting starting at 5:30 next Monday? Okay, just wanted to make sure I had the correct time.
Town managers report.
So in your packet, in the agenda notes, there's a rough timeline. This is a preliminary timeline for the downtown master plan, RFP, and contract to develop a master plan for the downtown, ending up in March of 2020 with a final report and plan.
Nice. Nicely done.
And then I understand that many of you have had some questions about the reappraisal. So in response to that and to the many questions we've received, we updated our Middlebury reappraisal page on the town website, right off the home page on latest events. And a very helpful document, frequently asked questions is there. People understandably are very concerned about what the reappraisal will do to their tax bills, just because your value may have gone up, your tax bill won't go up. We're still going to raise essentially the same amount of money for our municipal budget. It's just going to be split up a different way. Another factor in that is the school tax, and that will be affected by the final common level of appraisal, which should be in the area of 100%, but that will be determined by the state when it reviews the reappraisal numbers.
Kathleen, so I'm on the home page.
Yep, under latest events.
Under what?
Latest events,
There you go.
Oh, okay, so it's, yeah, got it,
right under the elephant.
perfect.
The biggest question I've had is people assume that the tax rate stays the same.
Right.
And that we generate all this extra money. And I've tried to explain to people that no, we generate the same money and the tax rate is set accordingly based on the final grand list. So that's how I've been kind of explaining it, so.
That's right.
So in simple terms, are the taxes going up or not? That's the thing,
Well,
the
we did
property
vote
taxes.
a small increase.
That was-
There was a 2% increase in the budget.
Yes.
But since the
Based
grand
on-
list is going up so much, there will be a decrease in the tax rate.
It said the town tax rate is, to simplify it, you get your grand list and you divide your budget into that, right? And so now it's gone up 20%, so you're dividing into a much higher number, so the taxes per 100 will be, if you have the same budget, would be 20% less, because you have a much higher grand list. Now, we have, the rate would be 20% less.
And that's for municipal taxes. You have two components of your tax rate, your education tax rate and the municipal.
And the education would be based upon, because the expectation is because we will have had a full reappraisal, that we would have at least a 100%, where we were 84.4, was it? 84 point something.
Right.
And so we were 16% higher or whatever than 100% on what we had to pay for taxes, where now we would have a credit and be paying. And there is a chance that would.
I'm just looking at the bottom line for a regular
Say
person who lives in Middlebury.
Yeah.
If they are paying $4,000 in taxes per year in property taxes, would that become $5,000 or would it stay at $4,000?
Not even close. No, not even close.
Yeah, so we did approve and present to the voters a 2-cent.
A 2-cent, which is
At the
But I'm
time.
assuming that is based on the prior appraisal. The appraisal has.
Right, but we approved that amount of money to be raised by taxes.
Right.
So whatever the grand list ends up being,
So that
we
amount
have
is
to
going to be
raise.
divided.
Right,
It'll
right.
wash it out. Yeah.
So the amount of money raised needs to be the same.
Yep.
So
our
and so
rate goes
it's
down.
potential that some person's property value went up, but maybe their taxes stay the same or actually go down. We don't really know till we have the final grand list and we know what that value is, what the tax rate is, and how we, yeah.
Yep.
Until we can set the tax rate.
And you make another good point, Heather. Values didn't go up the same across the board. Some properties were increased more based on what the improvements have been in that property over the years, so it's hard to predict.
And I would encourage anybody that asks you questions to recommend that they participate in the informal hearings to get their, ask their questions. And
it's simple. Just call the town offices and schedule an appointment June 18th through 21st. And we'll have a team here ready to answer all your questions and go over your specific circumstances.
And I think if people really have a lot of questions, they should take advantage of that. So I'm encouraging anyone that
next week.
Yeah, anyone that asks me to participate in that process.
Thank you, Kathleen. This is really exactly what we ought to point people to, is this piece that you put on the website, though, because it's very clear and it answers most of the questions of what people have called me.
So can I share that on social media? Can
Sure.
I share the link?
Yeah, please do.
Actually, that would be maybe something on our,
On Porch Forum.
well,
On the email list, too.
I was also thinking our email list.
Yes.
Just draw people's attention to the fact that we're getting a lot of questions on the increase, and that there is a fact.
I know
And-
Beth has posted town stuff on Front Porch Forum before. Could we?
She's opened up a town account on Front Porch Forum.
Okay, could we ask her to post the link there for people?
I
Thank
think she did, yeah, she did put it on the front page.
She put something about the booklets coming out, but I don't know about.
That's right.
this.
That's what she put out,
Yeah,
Okay.
not the link to this.
yeah.
And the other thing that people will adjust to is the fact that we're only issuing 2 tax bills this year, so
Yeah. I think
that'll be an
until-
adjustment.
Until people see the tax bill, there will be some anxious moments because of the change in the property values. And they will be worried.
Okay.
And then you already had your Emerald Ash Borer update.
We did.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Board member concerns. Rod. Victor.
I just think the town has something to celebrate. Nias Mitchell is not a native of Middlebury, I think New Haven, but went to Middlebury College and won the Tony Award. And I think it's just something that should make us very proud, I think. And I've known Don and Cheryl for a very long time, and they're wonderful people. And I'm not surprised that their daughter has done so well. And whether maybe the select board should consider some kind of a tribute to her for what she's done, I think it'd be.
I don't.
It's a
I think
tough
just
one.
I think noting it like you have
Yeah.
tonight is, I think noting it tonight is worthy.
Kathleen, I had a question for you on the incoming correspondence. The Building Communities Grant Program for recreation facilities, is there any opportunity for us in there to take advantage of that, or are you?
I'm working with the sports center
Okay.
that thought they could work within this program to help match some of the funds they're raising and
Okay.
reduce the amount that they'll have to borrow.
Okay, perfect, great. Thank you. That was, and I just, kudos to our fire department, kudos to Laura and the beautiful picture in her banana costume on the front page of the paper, and we just, great community, so thank you.
Nick?
No, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, Laura?
Well, really, the work that I'm doing in transportation is all for preparation for the downtown rail bridge construction project and helping people access the downtown without cars. So we brought the e-bikes as a pilot program this month, and people are able to try a step-through regular bike or a cargo assist bike, and it's very popular. In fact, it's fully booked already for the whole month, which is exciting. And anybody that's used the bikes are really happy. I think I saw that you had signed up, so I hope you have a wonderful experience with it. And I think that it's a real game changer, e-bikes. We did see that Burlington has experienced
Surge.
e-bikes and e-scooters. I know, Brian, you sent me the link to the story up there, and we have had similar concerns about e-scooters. We're not talking about e-scooters in Middlebury. We are talking about e-bikes, and we definitely do want to promote them as a choice for navigating downtown. So that's one thing. And of course, we have the bus as another option, and we are anticipating that it will increase in its frequency in shuttling about town. And speaking of the bus, and I'm wearing the shirt, just to say, ride the bus, especially next Thursday on June 20th, which is Dump the Pump Day, and the fares are free on the bus next Thursday. Give you a chance to try it. You can get to Burlington, Rutland, Virgins, Bristol. In town is free already anyway, but it's just an opportunity again to try the bus. And also remember that Actor also has a dial-a-ride service, which was mentioned tonight, and I actually became a dial-a-ride volunteer, and it's a very important service and a successful one. I know that she spoke to a limit, and I will take that because I am on the Actor board. I was going to speak to that, and just understand what the terms are, for those requests. But I think they're doing a really good job with a tight budget, in meeting our transportation needs. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you for all the good work you do, Laura.
Yeah. I learned that yellow is the most visible color from a distance.
That's why I wear the yellow.
That's why you were.
That's
It's pretty cool, huh?
it's to play,
That'll
and
stick-
mark that.
That will
yes.
stick with me now for a long time. Thank you.
Just paint the town office yellow, becomes more obvious.
So we have,
And we'll all wear yellow vests, right?
we have an executive session today about contract negotiations, so if you could bring us into that.
Yep. In accordance with Vermont's open meeting law requirements, I move that the board find that premature general knowledge of the consideration of contract negotiations would clearly place the Select Board at a substantial disadvantage because the Select Board risks disclosing its negotiation strategy if it discusses the contract negotiations in public.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I further move that the board enter into executive session to discuss contract negotiations and under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Enter executive session at 8:08.